You're committing a felony right now. That's what the HOA president screamed at me, in front of about 40 witnesses, the moment I calmly pulled out my phone and said I was calling the cops. She was standing there on my private dock with her little entourage, acting like she owned the place. Spoiler alert, she didn't. Now, as someone who's made a living writing investigative pieces, I can spot corruption a mile away. The overconfidence, the fake authority, the money trails that don't add up. But what I didn't see coming was just how far her scam would go. Before we get rolling, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Now let me back up a sec and show you how this all started. That Saturday morning, I woke up to laughter, the loud, obnoxious kind that doesn't belong anywhere near your bedroom window at 7 a.m. I rolled over, grabbed my phone. Yeah, I was hoping it was still the middle of the night, but nope, way too early for all this racket. And it wasn't coming from the street or the neighbor's backyard. No, it was coming from my dock, the one the land deed spells out, plain as day, belongs to my address and mine alone. I get up, shuffle to the window, and there it is, 6 total strangers camped out like they're at some resort. I mean, they had camping chairs, a portable grill smoking away, a cooler big enough for a fishing charter, and one guy already swimming in my part of the lake. This woman in a neon yellow bikini was taking selfies against the sunrise. Another guy was flipping burgers, and the smell of charcoal and cheap beer was already drifting up toward me. 2 kayaks tied to my dock post like they just claimed the land. This wasn't just trespassing. This was a full-blown breakfast party. I threw on some jeans and a shirt and headed outside. My dock's about 20 feet out over the water, and every step I took down those old planks made this hollow, thunking noise that should have warned them I was coming. Didn't even faze them. They were too busy toasting beer bottles at 7:15 in the morning. When I finally reached the end, I stopped maybe 5 feet away and cleared my throat. Grill guy looked up first, spatula in hand, like I was the one interrupting something. Then the rest turned, and the looks ranged from annoyed to straight up hostile. "Morning," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I'm Owen. I own this place, including the dock. I need you all to pack up and leave." Silence. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. Then the woman in the yellow bikini laughed, genuinely amused, not nervous. "We're allowed to be here," she said, waving her phone like it was a badge. "Sharon told us we could use the community dock for the morning." My jaw clenched. "Sharon Peton? This isn't a community dock. This is my private property. There's a community dock about 200 yards that way, if that's what you're looking for." Grill guy stands up, big dude, gym regular for sure, tries to get in my space. "Look, man, we paid for dock access. Sharon cleared it with the HOA. If you got a problem, take it up with her. Paid for dock access." The words hit me like a slap. My dock. They'd paid someone, probably Sharon, to use my dock. Before I could even respond, here comes Sharon herself, striding down the path in her Lakeside Estates HOA President polo and carrying a clipboard like she's about to inspect a nuclear facility. Her smile was all friendliness, but her eyes, ice cold. I'd dealt with Sharon 3 times before, and every single time, it felt like she saw herself as royalty instead of a neighborhood volunteer. "Owen," she called out, syrupy sweet. "I heard you were causing a disturbance. Is there a problem here?" I pointed to the 6 breakfast partiers. "Yeah, there's a problem. These folks are on my private property, and they need to leave." Sharon gives me that look people give toddlers having a tantrum. "Owen, all the docks in this community fall under shared usage rights. It's in the HOA guidelines." I pulled out my phone. Journalist habit, I keep scanned copies of every important doc, and brought up my deed. "That's interesting," I said, showing her, "because according to this survey and title, this dock is deeded exclusively to this address. HOA's got no jurisdiction over it." She barely even glanced at my phone, just waved her hand dismissively. "Those old deeds don't reflect current community standards. We've implemented revised asset allocation protocols under the updated bylaws. The board voted in a dock sharing program 6 months ago for the good of the entire community." There was classic Sharon, using bureaucratic nonsense to sound official. But something about her tone made my gut twinge. Too vague, too defensive. "Really?" I said. "What meeting was that vote taken in? I don't remember any dock sharing program in the minutes." Sharon's smile tightened a notch. It was at the April general meeting. You'd know if you'd bothered to attend. Here's the kicker. I did attend that meeting. Sat through 90 minutes about landscaping and parking, and there was zero mention of docks. But I let it go, for now, and watched her turn to reassure the trespassers. Don't worry, folks. Mr. Marlowe just doesn't understand community living. You have every right to be here. That was it for me. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera, and started taking pictures. Wide shots, close-ups, everything. Sharon snapped. What are you doing? Documenting, I said. Timestamps, faces, evidence of trespassing. It's what I do for a living. For just a second, I saw her mask slip, a flicker of real uncertainty. Then it was gone, replaced with indignation. You can't just take photos of people without permission. That's illegal. I almost laughed. Actually, Sharon, if people are trespassing on my property, I do have the right. But hey, thanks for your concern about the law. She leaned in, voice low. You're making a mistake, Owen. You don't want to be the guy who fights the HOA. Trust me, there was the threat, not even thinly veiled. I looked at her, looked at the freeloaders on my dock, looked back at her. We'll see. I walked back to my house, phone full of evidence, mind already running through next steps. First thing I did, check the county property records. In 5 minutes flat, confirmed my dock was a permanent fixture on private property, no easements, no shared access. HOA had zero claim. I saved every file in triplicate and started a new folder, HOA investigation. Then I logged into the HOA portal, dug through meeting minutes. Only the last 3 months were posted and no mention of dock sharing. That's a legal red flag. HOAs have to keep years of minutes. Either they're hiding something or they're incompetent. I emailed the entire board, cited the law, and requested every minute and document related to dock use for the past 2 years. Copied everyone with read receipts. If they ignored me, I'd have proof. While I waited, I visited my neighbors. Out of 12 homes with private docks, 3 had stories just like mine. Russ, the guy 2 doors down, said Sharon asked if he'd rent out his dock, then slapped him with a bogus landscaping violation when he refused. Iris, the financial consultant, got threatened with a fine for something that wasn't even in the rules. Fletcher, over on Maple Court, got the same treatment. Pattern established. Sharon was intimidating anyone who didn't play ball. 3 days after my email, I got a polite reply from the HOA treasurer, Pauline. She'd send the minutes by week's end. That's when I realized not everyone on the board was part of Sharon's game. When those minutes arrived, I tore through them. No dock sharing, no program, no vote. Sharon had made it up. That's when things escalated. An emergency community meeting, packed house, Sharon at the podium doing her best politician act. She framed the whole thing as a moral debate, private property owners versus the community good. Next thing you know, she's got people voting right there. 42 in favor of shared resources, 8 opposed, 15 abstained. I stood up and called her out. Read the minutes, check the records. There was no such program. Sharon doubled down. The crowd went cold. Afterward, an old man told me, "You're right about the law, but you're not going to win a popularity contest." And he was right. Socially, Sharon had just painted me as the villain. But I wasn't backing down. I put up security cameras, documented every trespass, and tracked down a rental listing. Sharon, under a fake name, was advertising my dock and others on a vacation rental site. $50 a day, my dock and the photos. I cross-referenced rental dates with my camera footage. Perfect match. Next, I requested the HOA financials, legally entitled as a homeowner. The treasurer, Pauline, was helpful again. I combed through the records and found $3,200 in facility rental income. No explanation, no board vote, just a nice, round, suspicious number. That's about 64 bookings in 3 months, which matched the traffic on my dock. Sharon wasn't just running a little scam, she was laundering it through the HOA. So, me and 3 dock owners met off-site, shared our evidence, and pooled everything. Iris, the financial consultant, said, "This is a criminal offense, embezzlement." Russ showed me more violation notices, and Fletcher said he'd been keeping emails from Sharon, pattern of intimidation, all of it. We decided it was time to get a lawyer. I found one with a record for winning against HOA overreach and showed him the evidence. He looked at the stack, deeds, photos, security footage, bank statements, online listings, and said, "You have an exceptionally strong case. But people like this, when they're cornered, they escalate. Are you ready for that?" I was. He drafted a cease and desist letter that spelled out every infraction, cited state law, and warned of legal action. Sharon got the letter on a Tuesday and called me in 2 hours flat. Voice shaking, furious. "How dare you threaten to sue the HOA? Do you realize the damage you're doing to the community?" I kept it calm. "Sharon, I'm just asking you to stop breaking the law." She tried the old threats, saying she'd find every violation on my property and fine me. I told her, "Feel free. I'm in full compliance, and you can bring my attorney." She hung up cold as ice. 3 days later, Sharon posts about a community appreciation day at, my doc and 2 others. Pure provocation. She was betting I wouldn't call the police on a crowd. Wrong again. I called the sheriff, sent all the documents in advance, and got ready. Saturday came, sunshine, crowd of 40+ on my property, Sharon in her President polo, playing the hero. I stood at the property line with my deed, gave one clear warning, asked folks to move to the community dock. Sharon shouted over me, "This is a sanctioned HOA event." I told everyone, "If you refuse to leave, I'll call the sheriff." Crowd erupted. "You're calling the cops on families?" But I dialed anyway. When the deputies arrived, I handed them the evidence, deeds, the whole folder. Sharon tried to bluff, but when the deputy asked, "Do you have written permission from these owners?" and she didn't, that was it. I showed the officers the rental listings, the money trail, the fake program, every ugly detail. The treasurer and another board member backed me up. There was never any vote, never any program. Right there in front of everyone, the deputies told Sharon they'd be taking a statement for fraud and possible embezzlement. The crowd went silent as it clicked. People started realizing they'd paid Sharon for access she had no right to sell. The deputies thanked me for following the law and handling things right. A week later, Sharon was charged, criminal trespass, fraud, embezzlement. The board removed her as president and did a full audit. Over $8,000 skimmed in 8 months, most of it never authorized, all of it run through the HOA. The online group that trashed me before now was full of stories from people Sharon had bullied, bogus fines, threats, intimidation. Me and the other dock owners filed a civil lawsuit for damages and distress. 6 weeks later, Sharon settled, pled guilty, got probation, community service, paid $12,000 restitution, banned from HOA office, and settled our lawsuit for another $15,000. Honestly, I didn't care about the money. What mattered was proving this stuff counts. Property rights, accountability, they still mean something. The HOA cleaned house, installed new safeguards, brought in honest leadership, and finally operated like a community, not a private fiefdom. Sharon sold her house and moved. Some folks still defend her, good intentions, bad execution, but most were just glad she was gone. And after all that, the lake got quiet again. My dock was just my dock. No more strangers. No more nonsense. I learned a lot about how power corrupts, about how standing up for what's right often makes you the villain at first, and about how truth, when you stick to it, eventually wins. I moved here looking for peace and wound up fighting the biggest case of my life right in my backyard. Sometimes the right thing is the unpopular thing. Sometimes keeping the peace just enables injustice. A few months later, I was sitting on my dock, coffee in hand, mist rising off the water, finally getting what I came here for, a little peace. One of my neighbors, Russ, came by and sat beside me. "Glad you fought back," he said. "Most people just let folks like Sharon run the show." He was right. It takes someone a little stubborn, maybe even foolish, to stand up in front of 40 angry neighbors and call the sheriff anyway. I guess that was me. Truth is, I didn't want this fight. But if I'd backed down, Sharon would still be scamming, still bullying, and nothing would have changed. Now, my story's out there for anyone who's ever dealt with HOA abuse or power-hungry officials. Don't let them steamroll you. Justice isn't loud. It's steady, patient, and earned one step at a time. So, what do you think? Was I right to stand my ground, or should I have just let it go for the sake of harmony? Ever dealt with an HOA nightmare or a neighbor gone rogue? Drop your story below. Smash that like button, subscribe for more, and let's talk about what justice really looks like.